Hi, everybody. Before I call the meeting to order, I'm just going to read one little announcement. A reminder to those attending during public comment, you may hear colorful language that some might find offensive. The SCNC has no ability to control or regulate the content of speech that is protected under the First Amendment. Board members are reminded not to cut off, interrupt, or otherwise engage with stakeholders during their allotted time. So welcome everybody to the Studio City Neighborhood Council Special Board meeting for June 26th. It's 6:12, calling the meeting to order. And we call roll.
I was ready when you said.
You're excited. Was it that much?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's red light. Go ahead.
Kim Clements, absent. Dean Cutler,
Here.
Fiona Duffy, absent. Rhonda Freed, absent. Ira Gold, absent. Jeff Harwick,
Here.
Julie Houlihan, here. Scott Medell,
Present.
Chick Meehan,
Here.
Heather Marino, absent. Richard Niederberg, absent. Corinne Sarah, here. Adele Slutter, here. Adam Summer, absent. Alexa Steinberg, absent. Ali Velasco, present. 8. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you.
Just get about you.
So this meeting is regarding the Harvard Westlake River-Park project. It's from the Ad Hoc Committee. Chip Meehan's the chair. We're also going to hear from the applicant, Harvard Westlake, and they're going to make a brief statement, and they'll be around if they so choose to answer any questions. So what we're going to do in the order of events is I'll turn it over to Chip, and he's going to read the motion and give a little bit of context. Then we'll go to the applicant, and they can make their statement. Then we're going to go to public comment, and you'll each have 1 minute to speak. I'm not going to call the comment cards. We're just going to line up. It'll go faster, and each person come up and have your minute. And just keep in mind, the issue at hand is the motion. So you can say whatever you want, but please try to keep your comments germane to the motion itself. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chip.
Hello, my name is Chip Meehan. I am the chair of the Ad Hoc Committee looking at the Harvard Westlake proposal to develop the Weddington Golf and Tennis Facility. The motion that we have come up with is as follows. The board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council at this point cannot support the Harvard Westlake River-Park proposal. Los Angeles City Planning Department case number CPC 2020-1511-VCE-SPR. Changes to the proposal in the FEIR do not adequately address concerns expressed by this board earlier in the process. It is our understanding that rebuttals to the FEIR from experts in the following subject matter are forthcoming: hydrology, noise, traffic, artificial turf and water, lights, bats, air quality, safety, and trees. We look forward to seeing that work product. Additionally, the SCNC remains concerned about the lack of a comprehensive conditional use permit. The SCNC wishes to be involved in the drafting process along with CD4 and the applicant. Until that time, there are simply too many unknowns for us to support the project. The end.
Thank you. Ari.
So, everybody see me? And can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening. My name is Ari Engelberg. I know many of you. I'm the head of communications and strategic initiatives at Harvard Westlake School, and I'm part of the project team that's been working on the River-Park for almost 6 years now. I want to thank the council, for starters, for the opportunity to speak this evening. With the neighborhood council now considering a motion about the River-Park project, I'd like to offer some context because it's been a long road getting here. And many members of this council were not part of Harvard Westlake's conversations with the Studio City Neighborhood Council about River-Park when we first began working with the community many years ago. As you probably know, the previous owners of Weddington Golf and Tennis had for many years tried to sell the property. There were several buyers looking to convert the property into hundreds of housing units, which is quite common. However, after many neighbors advocated against new housing, In 2017, our school purchased the property. Entirely consistent with the site's long-standing use as recreational open space, Harvard Westlake's River-Park, we believe, will be a wonderful athletic, recreational, and environmental resource, a plan that doesn't even require a zoning change. For the last 5.5 years, we've been proactive in engaging with the community well before we submitted a draft plan to the city for initial consideration. We requested meetings with the Studio City Neighborhood Council, with the Studio City Residents Association, and other stakeholder groups to discuss community concerns and desires with respect to the property. Those agreements were documented and announced publicly in a series of design principles that remain on the River-Park website and that have influenced all of our design decisions. These principles include preserving the property as recreational urban open space, ensuring ongoing community access to recreational amenities, and investing in environmental sustainability. The reality of the current golf course is that it uses millions of gallons of fresh water a year, which is unacceptable in light of our region's scarce water supply, along with the significant number of pesticides that are also used. And the facility runs a substantial financial deficit every year. Regardless of the fate of our plans, and for the reasons I just noted, Weddington Golf and Tennis will not continue to operate as a golf facility. As the owner of the property, we have a responsibility to improve it and develop the River Park to serve our students, the broader community, and the environment. From an environmental standpoint, Harvard Westlake River-Park offers a more sustainable future for the property than the current condition. The River Park plan includes over 100 more trees on the site after development than there are currently, all of which will be natives. The carbon sequestration capacity will be equal to or greater than the current condition by year 2 of operation and will be more than double by year 5. These newly planted trees will be compliant with the River Master Plan and landscape guidelines and will ultimately offer more than double the shade canopy compared to the current condition. The newly planted trees will increase the biodiversity of the site, offer a wider range of habitat for native birds and wildlife. The stormwater capture system, the stormwater capture and reuse system, will allow the school to store hundreds of thousands of gallons of stormwater for reuse on site. The gymnasium will feature solar panels to provide renewable energy to the facility and to the grid. Currently, there is no clean energy produced on the site. Of note, the synthetic turf proposed for the playing fields requires no water whatsoever, and it will save hundreds of thousands of gallons of water per year compared to the current golf course. In addition, independent lab analysis of the synthetic turf proposed for River Park did not find measurable levels of PFAS, better known as forever chemicals, that have been identified by the EPA as potentially unhealthy. To be clear, there are no PFAS that have been identified by the EPA as potentially dangerous in the turf that we plan to use. This is not just a statement that Harvard Westlake is making. It's confirmed by an independent lab analysis that was certified by the city and published in the final EIR. Overall, the final environmental impact report finds that the project will have no operational impacts, including factors such as air quality, traffic, biological resources, energy, geology and soils, greenhouse gas emissions, hydrology and water quality, water supply, wastewater, and solid waste. In addition to River Park's environmental benefits, Harvard Westlake is also committed to extensive community access to River Park. This includes 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily access to the nearly 6 acres of wooded areas, plazas, and vista points that front the LA River, as well as the 3/4-mile walking and jogging trail that surrounds the property. This River Park trail is much more than just a required setback. The trail and associated vegetation will be up to 80 feet wide in some parts. Will include public art installations, educational monuments, seating areas, water and dog stations, decorative lighting, and will be monitored by Harvard Westlake's security team to ensure the safety of community members who use it. The core athletic amenities of the site, including the gym, fields, track, and pool, will be available for use by community groups when not in use by the school. In addition, the new tennis facilities connected to the refurbished historic putting green and clubhouse will remain open for public use, and Cafe Southwest will remain as a restaurant open to the public. There are many community groups that serve the recreational needs of Valley residents, young and old, and we look forward to partnering with them in the same way that youth sports and performing arts organizations partner with the LA City Department of Recreation and Parks to use its facilities. We have already established partnership agreements with Angel City Sports, an organization that serves adaptive athletes, Special Olympics, an organization that serves the needs of developmentally challenged athletes, the United States Tennis Association, and the Boys and Girls Club of Burbank and East San Fernando Valley for their use of River Park. Additionally, we have partnered with the Fernandinho Tatavian Band of Mission Indians and the Friends of the LA River to provide educational and cultural installations and programs at River Park to benefit local school children and Valley residents. These partnerships are not simply commitments on paper. Angel City Sports, Special Olympics, the USTA, and FOLAR already run programs on our campuses. Now, despite Harvard Westlake's commitments to community access and sustainability, we have understood from the beginning that there would be detractors and that some stakeholders would have questions and concerns. In the spirit of collaboration with our neighbors, in 2019, the school voluntarily held several listening sessions for the purpose of gathering community feedback about the initial site design. Since that time, we've also gathered feedback from attending numerous SCNC and SCRA meetings, from hundreds of letters sent to the city planning department, and from public responses to the draft environmental impact report. Additionally, school representative Stacy Marble and I have had more than 100 conversations with individual stakeholders and small stakeholder groups, and we continue to have those conversations. We've heard the narrative, most often offered on social media, that Harvard Westlake's position about the site design is intractable. To the contrary, in response to the extensive feedback we received, Harvard Westlake has made dozens of changes to the project scope over the last few years. The most significant of them include removing one of the bays of the gymnasium, reducing the size of the gym significantly, removing a 25-meter pool, reducing the track around Field B from 9 lanes to 6 lanes in order to be able to move it further from Valley Spring and away from the homes to the north, preserving the clubhouse and the putting green, expanding public tennis hours until 9 p.m. daily, increasing the size of the park areas from 4 acres to 5.4 acres, relocating Field B's bleachers to face away from the neighborhood, reducing the number of bleacher seats from 2,500 to 2,005, eliminating the pedestrian entrance at the corner of Valley Spring and Bel Air, reducing the number of parking spaces from 532 to 403, and reducing grading from 250,000 cubic yards to 197,000 cubic yards, which reduces the duration of grading by a month and a half. And finally, reducing the sports lighting fixtures from 39 poles to 22 poles. These are just some of the modifications that we've made. They may not satisfy everyone, but they are significant, they were made voluntarily, and they were made in direct response to community feedback. Importantly, and in response to the motion before you tonight, we continue to seek collaboration and common ground with the community and remain willing and ready to discuss operational considerations for River Park, and we'll look forward to hearing from this council about next steps in that conversation. Finally, I do want to feel it's important to remind you, Harvard Westlake is not a developer, and River Park is not a commercial project. Harvard Westlake is a nonprofit. We are a school solely dedicated to the education of our diverse student population that comes from 155 different zip codes across Southern California. We've been an active part of this neighborhood since moving to Coldwater Canyon in 1937. Our students give tens of thousands of hours a year of service to the Studio City and greater LA communities. And that mission the mission of purpose beyond self has guided our good faith interactions with our neighbors and the River Park project itself, which, if approved by the city, will provide high quality and safe recreation, educational, and cultural opportunities for students and the wider community. And it preserves this property as recreational open space for the future. We believe the River Park is ultimately worthy of your support, and we look forward to our continued engagement with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to public comment. So rather than call everybody's name from the comment cards, thank you for filling those out. Just line up in the middle and we'll just go one by one until everyone, and we'll do a minute because we have a lot of people who want to speak. So please respect the timer.
Go ahead, Barry. Hi, so Barry Johnson.
Barry, I can't hear you.
So I could say many things, but the two things that I just want to mention after just listening to the presentation is I am curious if the public acreage mentioned includes the ZEB, because the ZEB should not be included in the public acreage open to, that the school is providing to be open to us, because it's already public and open to us. And the other thing is, I always remember over the years that there was going to be public access to the facilities to members of the public, not just groups, teen groups, to the facilities when they were not being used by the school. And my last concern is just that the fence along the river never meanders into the ZEV property. That's my three. Thanks.
Thank you, Barry. Next.
Hi there. I support the motion and oppose the development. I also just want to make a couple comments. At no time have I spoken to any community members.
Could you use the microphone?
Sure. Can you hear me better now?
Microphone is not working. No.
Okay, so at no point in time.
He's turning it up.
Yeah, just hold it to your face and then I'll see the
Okay, can
levels.
you hear me now?
Just
I can
close.
hear you.
Okay, closer? Okay,
It's flood code.
It's not working.
doesn't sound like it's working.
Is this one working?
Now,
No, it's this one.
now can you hear me?
You have to talk into it.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. At no point in time have I spoken to a community member who felt that any of their ideas were represented in the DEIR or the FEIR. And I've spoken to community members who had the one-on-one interviews, and at no point in time did anyone that I spoke to feel that they were listened to. They felt that they were more told what was really good, which was the development as Harvard Westlake had it planned. Further, there's very little change from the DER to the FEIR, despite the fact that there was over 1,200 letters from both individuals and environmental organizations expressing grave concerns on all the areas that experts are going to be weighing in on going forward. And there's a lot of public safety issues in my particular neighborhood, which is the neighborhood that the Weddington is in. Like, it's, there's no street lights in 50% of the neighborhood, there's no sidewalk, no, there's no sidewalk for 50% of the neighborhood, and there's 13 street lights, period, in the neighborhood. So a lot of concern about a lot of traffic that's gonna be coming in there.
Hi, I'm Victoria Shillum. I live in the 4300 block of. I'm Victoria Shillum. I live in the 4300 block of Goodland Avenue. My major concern about this project is traffic through our neighborhood. And you can't tell me it isn't gonna happen because it already has. We need to be protected from teenagers driving through that area. And the other thing that hasn't come up is that I understand that Harvard rents its facilities out or lends them out to other schools for their games and stuff. Is that going to continue, and how are they going to control traffic of those people through our neighborhood? Thank you.
The other schools. She didn't mean anything. From the other schools.
Hi, is this working? I'm Charlotte Glover. I live in the 4300 block of Alcove Avenue. I share similar concerns as most people here. Keeping it short, when people say they're going to develop a property and they'll add more trees, it's going to take decades for those trees to become a shade canopy. They do not, unless they're gonna transplant 100-year-old oaks in there, it's never gonna be the same. That's my problem. That's number one. Number two, AstroTurf has notoriously been horrible for the environment. It's been proven over and over again. It is quote unquote save water. It really doesn't because it's horrible for reflective of the, for climate change and for heating up our community. And then traffic and safety. Kids on bikes, people walking dogs. I don't know, it's already from the other development on Coldwater and Ventura, the traffic in that neighborhood has just astronomically gone up and people speed through those roads and it's very scary and someone's gonna get killed and that's my fear. And when that happens, are they gonna take responsibility for it? Who's gonna take responsibility? And that's probably my time, so I will stop. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
So just a reminder, you're free to continue in this line of comment, but keep in mind, the topic for tonight is the motion. So if you also want to express support or opposition for the motion itself,
Support the motion.
that would be helpful. All the other issues are actually addressed in the motion for more information. But again, I'm not telling you what to say. I'm just reminding you the topic that is on the agenda is the motion. So go ahead.
Good evening, my name is Steve Hirsch. I've lived in Studio City for 50 years plus, and I want to support the motion, but I'd like to suggest that the words "at this point" be removed from the motion. I don't understand the meaning of them within that, but that's my comment on the formal motion. I am concerned that two things. One, that Harvard Westlake, as many organizations are, is a nonprofit. That does not mean they're not profitable. And that's a huge distinction I think we need to all embrace. That's one thing. Two is the Zev Yaroslavsky Walkway is a community-supported effort that I don't believe should be annexed whatsoever. And I think even in the planning department's drawings, that needs to be addressed and the lines pulled back to the actual property line that they have purchased. Those are two important points. And the last is, after, and I know that Harvard Westlake discussed the community input, and most of us have been to many, if not all, of those meetings, and the exchange rate between the time we put in and the care for the project and the property has not paid off in terms of the results of the compromises. And I fear that that's going to be the nature of our relationship for the rest of time after they take this over. I think it's really important that if there's a sincere interest in maintaining that or creating that relationship, it starts really immediately. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andrea Scher. I've been living in Studio City for 38 years in September. I live on Goodland Avenue. Firstly, I support the motion as written on the agenda for tonight's special board meeting. I have been fighting to save this beautiful 16 acres of green space since the year 2000. This property has been available to the greater community for over 60 years. And now, from this beautiful, lush green space, it's going to turn into concrete, artificial turf and decomposed granite for less than 900 pupils who already have all these facilities. I was contacted by Harvard Westlake School and they did not satisfy my objections in any way. Thank you.
Did I pick the right one?
Yes.
Okay. My family and I have been residents of the neighborhood just above the golf course for 14 years. I have to say, I have lived in LA for my entire adult life, which is more than 30 years. And when I moved to Studio City, I was in awe. I couldn't believe, praying mantis would walk on me. I mean, things that I'd never seen in life, and I saw them in person. I can't believe how biodiverse our whole ecosystem is in this neighborhood. And that is a true open space the way it is. I appreciate Harvard Westlake wanting to build and wanting to do what they want to do for their school. I appreciate that, but what they're doing is not going to keep it an open space. Give me a break. They're going beyond the boundaries of what the current 16 acres are. This golf course is worth keeping, not just the Caddyshack restaurant and the beautiful lanterns, but the whole thing, like every blade of grass, every tree, everything. The canopy would take decades for it to grow back again. Even if they were to grow 100 extra seedlings, they're not gonna grow in our lifetime, okay? The other thing is like, I get so frustrated with everyone saying, excuse me, our governor was passing fake news about golf courses not being watered. And how, what a terrible waste of water. Well, you know what? There is a difference between waste and use, because if anyone knows, you cannot destroy or create energy. You cannot destroy or the water either. So whenever you water a lawn, especially the golf course, and you can not take my word for it, but Greenpeace has recently changed their statement about it. Greenpeace has discovered that when you water a golf course, you keep the local environment rich with water. That means if you stop watering the golf course, will create a drought. That is what America learned in 1920s with Oklahoma, the Dust Bowl. Why? Because they were told to stop watering their lawns. Lawns save the environment and it keeps the water cycle local. So if we want to keep our nice environment lush and green as it has always been, keep watering the golf course and keep it open for the community. This is a cultural, iconic.
That's your time, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. That's it?
Appreciate it. That's it.
Okay.
I could have kept going.
I support the motion and I don't support Harvard Westlake River-Park.
Fairway?
Hi, my name's Gentle Phoenix. I live at Bloomfield in Goodland. First off, thank you, Harvard Westlake, for coming and speaking, and also for giving us a chance to be heard by you, because there's so many of us that are so passionate about this piece of property. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm originally from the East Coast. I moved to Studio City, and it's so green, and I live right by the golf course, and the community of people, we walk through around the streets, and it's safe, it's quiet, it's like one of the last little neighborhoods that you can walk in and not, I don't know, you feel okay, whatever it is, because you become friends with your neighbors. And there really aren't any sidewalks. And the traffic from your school is gonna come down Coldwater, it's gonna make a right onto our streets and go through, because there's no left-hand turn lane, and that road that is shared with that fire department, it's a small egress. And one of the things on your report said, well, if worse comes to worse, the fire department can relocate. And that just, to me, I mean, I know I'm boiling it down at that, but that was on there. And for you guys to want to relocate a fire department, and they're essential to our neighborhood. And it just, I'm sorry, I just feel like you can find a better way to do something on this property, because this property it means so much to so many people. I would hope that it would mean something to you.
Thanks so much.
I am for the motion and against the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna keep it real short and sweet. Is it this one? This one? I support the motion for all reasons that are mentioned in the motion, and that's my comment.
Hey, everybody, I support the motion, but I would like, as Steve said, for you to just take out the words "at this point" and also use the word "oppose" at the beginning versus "cannot support." There's probably 21 environmental reasons why I'm backing this motion. Please understand how important it is, and your vote is critical. Thank you.
Sorry. I support the motion wholeheartedly. And I want y'all to know that that fire station, every single paramedic there has been to my front door at 3 in the morning over the last 2 years. I need them. And you may too. Thank you.
Drew, come on up.
Which one is the microphone that's magic?
I think they all
That's the magic microphone.
One's a prank, it's
Hi,
a.
I'm Drew Shaw. I moved to Studio City in 2005, and I lived first on Whitsett, right across the street from the golf course. And one of the reasons why I'm there is because of the golf course. The green space is absolutely important to me. I absolutely support the measure. I also would like to say oppose forever this project. The other thing that I would like to ask is, in your statement, you said that there was a concern with runoff from pesticides. If you're the owner of that property, how are you still putting pesticides on that property and you're complaining about it like it's out of your control? Thank you very much.
Karen Lieberman, I've been in Studio City 34 years. I lived on Ballet, very hot, and I currently live in Colfax Meadows. My kids grew up riding bikes in the area next to the golf course because it was safe. I had 4 kids that played golf and learned to play golf on that golf course. So I feel very passionately about it. The trees are really, really important. I totally support the motion. I would happily, if this was actually open to the community where our kids could go and do the things that they've done in that neighborhood traditionally, perhaps there would be some level of sense in that. I totally understand Harvard Westlake looking for a venue. I'm concerned about the noise. You've got 2,005 people in the stands right in the neighborhood. The lights, I believe that can be mitigated to some extent, but the noise, I don't believe so, and the traffic and teenage drivers in that area. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Here's one of the little golfers.
Hi. I actually grew up playing golf at Weddington. We moved there in '94 on Bel Air Avenue, so I grew up walking there with my 2 brothers who would, in the streets, whatever. I support the motion, basically, is what I want to say. I also want to just say that that space is so special. And Harvard Westlake has never invited me to their campus. I've never been able to use their facilities. I went to a local private school here. We didn't have a pool. It was never offered to us. So I think allowing groups, I didn't really understand that part. And I also didn't understand the rezoning. My understanding was that it wasn't zoned for such a space that they're trying to provide. And I think it's just really important that those neighbors are heard that still live there, and we own property in that neighborhood still, and learn from the Sportsman's Landing and what's happened with the traffic there. I can't go there on a Saturday or a Sunday, and if these, it's just going to be a lot of noise, a lot of traffic, and the numbers are shocking. They're absolutely shocking. And I don't think it is the right thing to do in that space. So I support the motion, and we'll always not support the facilities they're trying to do. Thank you.
My name's Kevin Heibach. I live on Sunslope Drive, we look down on top of the golf course. I kind of laugh at the greenwashing by Harvard Westlake. I don't see how artificial turf fields, running tracks, tennis courts, 400 or 500 car garage, 80,000 square foot gymnasium could anyway be greener than what's there. As we are above it, in our own house, we're right on the front of Ventura Boulevard. We're going to get all the light from the 8-foot tall light pole directly into our house. We're going to get all the noise from whistles, marching bands, playing fields. We're going to have a problem with the traffic of Whitsett and Ventura, which is already bad with the Sportsman's Lodge complex. I'm in favor of this motion and against the Harvard Westlake complex.
Hello. Hi. Does this one work? Yeah. Everyone says that to begin with, so I felt compelled. My name is Keith Blaney. I've lived in Studio City for almost 20 years, and I'm on board. with the motion, because round peg, square hole, I mean, gigantic. I mean, legendary, what you're asking, not asking, telling what's gonna go down. 400 new parking spots. If you try to go around the neighborhood at the shops that's working lounge, if you try at any hour of the day, the backup is gonna go the way it's doing, and the backup is gonna go down to the golf course. And if you're thinking 400, you're expecting 400 cars, with how many people then filling the stands and the noise, the constant daily noise of the round peg and the square hole that doesn't need to be. So thank you for taking the time. And just remember the traffic, because it's already a nightmare.
Seconds. Is this one glasses?
Oh, no, I'm not mine. Yes.
Somebody. There you go. How you doing? My name is Richard. I have a lot of financial interests. I don't live in the area, don't care to, just have financial interest. After hearing the communications director, he was, in my opinion, very vague, ambiguous, and overbroad. For the meeting, I told him there's an issue which I have litigated many times regarding the fire code. It's one of the codes up in, that we have, and that's a state code. And I told him you would have a little problem under the fire code, which you can't get a variance on. And what he did was basically say, noted, and asked me about the code section or the Court of Appeals decisions on that to address it. He just basically very nicely told me to go fuck off. So because of him, I'm not speaking because of him, as several people know, I litigate. And because of him, I'm gonna be the fucking asshole that's gonna bankrupt his life, legally, lawfully, and civilly. So I wish him well, and I'm gonna do everything legally, lawfully, and civilly under the fire code because he was such an asshole to me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rory, and I've lived in Studio City for about 48 years. And I just want to say I'm completely in favor of the motion, and I agree with everything that's been said here. And there's more to say, but I think tonight, saying I'm in favor of the motion is sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm David Edelstein. I live on Bellard Avenue, just about half a block from the proposed River-Park. I'd like to second what everybody has talked about in terms of traffic in particular. And I'd like to point out that I think Harvard Westlake's deviousness is, first of all, indicated by the actual nomenclature. They call it a river park. I'm not aware of any park that denies access to most of the property to the majority of citizens and only allows access to special groups at special times. That's not what I call a park. They term it as a recreation center. It's not a center. A center is a place that allows the general public to come and participate. A shopping center, the music center, a center for the arts. And I think Harvard Westlake does a disservice to their own students by denying them the truly wonderful educational opportunity that 16 acres of green open space provides. Why not, Harvard Westlake? Allow your students to study the precious flora and fauna, the balance of nature achieved
in this unique property? Why not allow your students to study horticulture on a large basis? Plant a garden of 16 acres and have your students really learn something valuable rather than another swimming pool, another gym, another running track, which I believe Harvard Westlake students already have access to. Why not allow your students to learn something unique by interacting with the public and by learning the value of open green space in a community that's starved for that open green space?
That's your time, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I support the motion. Opposed?
Visual aids. This is the map of the project. This is the developer's map of the project. And I don't know if our board has seen the color here. What the yellow represents is the property that Harvard Westlake actually owns. It is on the Weddington property, okay? The pink is 1.1 acres of county land that historically has been leased from the county to the Weddington family. And that is the third green, the fourth fairway, and the sixth fairway. The green here is the Zev Yaroslavsky Greenway. The pink and the green are not owned by Harvard Westlake, but in order for them to build this ginormous track, as you can see, it spills over the property they own onto the county land. So they went ahead and designed this project, and as of today, do not have a lease for this land. And the green represents encroachment on the ZEV. I don't think that should happen. I support the motion. I want to say that we understand that they're not obligated to run a golf course as much as many of us would love that. But and we're not saying, I don't believe this motion says they can't build anything. But I attended every single meeting that I was allowed to by Harvard Westlake. And this project has not changed one brick from the original map, which was written in March 2019. The only changes when the final DEIR have come out was about the parking. And it was classic Ari, when he said, and we're reducing the amount of ground that we're excavating. Left out the part because the DWP said they cannot build a 1 million gallon well. They can only deal with the water on their own property. So they didn't do that for us or to lessen the construction time. It was because they were told by the city that they cannot build a $1 million, or 1 million, oh, it's more than $1 million, but 1 million gallon tank. So I just want you to all keep in mind that to me, this motion doesn't represent not working with Harvard Westlake or prohibiting them from building anything. But this project is too large for the neighborhood. It's inappropriate. Thank you.
Are you for the motion?
I am for the motion. Yes, I think I said that at the beginning. And I'm going to leave that there for you to all look at.
My name is Michael Kapolsky. I'm a resident of Studio City. I serve on the ad hoc committee for the Harvard Westlake River-Park project. I own a business in Studio City, and I'm a former president and current producer for a safety and risk management company serving grocery and restaurant chains nationwide. That company, Frontline Safety, is based in Laverne, California, next to the LA Fairgrounds. Throughout my career, I've learned that the only thing that is constant is change. 5 years ago, I would have supported artificial turf in my home. Earlier this year, I could not support its use. In principle, I support the replacement of an older athletic facility with a newer, more modern one. I know everyone here doesn't, but I support change. I would like to see this project come to fruition. My non-support for the Harvard Westlake River-Walk project was based on the ill-advised use of artificial turf, of which all brands contain PFAS. That's the one thing, there was so much documentation, but I checked all the different brands of turf and all contain PFAS. I no longer feel I need to object to the installation of artificial turf. This week, with the $10.3 billion settlement with 3M over PFAS in drinking water, and the lawsuit recently filed over the death of 6 Philadelphia Phillies ball players, all with the same rare form of brain cancer linked to PFAS, I believe Harvard Westlake will make a pragmatic decision, not because of what we say. In the 60s, it was thalidomide. In the 90s, it was asbestos. And in the 2020s, it's PFAS. So by the time this project comes to fruition, I believe the threat of litigation and insurance premiums based on the growing exposure to PFAS will override any backward-looking EPA regulations or things that guide them.
Michael, time is up, sir.
Do you want me to, I'll just comment on the motion. If the motion were to oppose the project, I would have to oppose the motion. But if it's to get more information, I'm good with that.
Dr. Black.
Yes. I'm Alexander Black. I've been in resident Studio City for over 20 years. I've been following this project closely. Yes, the work I've been doing, most of all, Ari, I think you know, has been around PFAS and around the artificial turf, and wanting to stay absolutely on top of this as possible. I'm going to be crystal clear about this, folks, because the clarity that this gentleman gave tonight will, in the end, show to be very disingenuous and absolutely wrong. The first sample that was told to us that would be used for the project proved to have elevated levels of PFAS, and now the project claims to be using a similar product from the same company. And I asked then, when he says that that was independently tested and that he believes people that he has worked with and is working with on that turf, that they are saying it does not have levels of PFAS in it, which is a very complicated conversation. So what that needs to be drawn out, borne out, and will be when we get to these rebuttals, these experts, because this will come down to experts. Their experts, I don't want to say our experts, but the other experts, not the experts hired by Harvard Westlake, but the rest of the experts. So I please ask that you keep a very open mind and clearly stay on top of what experts and what testing I think will bore out thereof. Thank you very much, and I am for the motion.
Thank you, Alex. Lori.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Okay, Lori Rittenberg, I live in Studio City.
You need to use the mic.
Okay, Lori Rittenberg, I live in Studio City, and I support the motion for many reasons, including anything I've heard from Harvard Westlake about public access is so vague. It's unbelievably vague, and I know for a fact that what's happening now, here's just an example. At the Weddington tennis courts, what's happening is for 4 weeks, the public cannot use the courts until after 4 o'clock. And the 6 coaches are not allowed to do tennis camp. But Harvard Westlake is using the courts for tennis camp, and they're not necessarily, actually for little kids, not Harvard Westlake. So maybe some of them might be Harvard Westlake students, but there's lots of little kids, like 8-year-olds, using the Harvard Westlake tennis camps that the coaches can't even have. That's just an example of what you might expect in terms of public access to any of the facilities. And also the idea of artificial turf breaking down, being so close to the LA River, going into the ocean, it makes me sick. So I support.
Anybody else from the public? Just come on up.
I'd like to see who I'm talking to. We'll look around. Hi, everybody. My name is Lewis Sanford. I've been a resident of Studio City since 1990. And I'm so glad Harvard Westlake is here because if you're not a developer, then please explain, and I fully support this motion. I think I've already alluded to that because I think it's very perceptive. Please explain, if you're not a developer, how a 16-acre demolition and construction site over a 3-year period and will spread countless tons of pollutants into the air not be deemed a potential health and environmental nightmare. If you're not a developer, please explain why you deem it acceptable that the site, once finished, will increase traffic flow, noise currents, light emissions, and most importantly, boast about 2.5 acres of these so-called PFAS. And we know it is because the EPA's come out and deemed it so, because many facilities are using it, and because of these revelations, they're taking it out. Not to mention, plastic turf generates a heat island effect. We all know it, we're all confronting it. Global warming and climate change are a reality. So why would you advocate for this, in addition to taking down the substantial amount of trees, when the canopy is so desperately needed? And now, we can't wait 50 years for them to mature and become the age of the trees that protect us today. And if you're not a developer, please explain. I mean, think about it for a second. Harvard Westlake is a prestigious school. They're top rated. But why do you continue to deny the science shortfalls of this plan? And knowing how the community pushed back on all the previous development plans, why would you repeat history and make the same mistake again? So honestly, I'm very, very curious, so please explain.
Is that it from the audience?
I didn't sign a paper.
That's okay. You don't have to sign a paper. Just as soon as the spot's empty, just come up and take your minutes. You can, whoever wants to come next, just you can stand up in the center.
I oppose the AstroTurf. I just oppose the whole project. I don't want a football stadium in my backyard. I don't want the noise for all the obvious other reasons. The traffic, the lights, the construction, what it does to the property value. I understand that they purchased the property, but it's been a long contested battle in our neighborhood for a while. So they must have known, if they did a little bit of their homework, the ant farm that they were stepping into. And I'm just gonna keep fighting this thing. You're destroying our community by building this in our neighborhood. The golf course and the tennis courts or something, if you drive by there any day of the week, it's full of people. We're utilizing that. And you should have picked a better piece of property and did a little bit better of homework, and that's why you're running into this pushback. Thanks.
My name is Martha Bissell, and I live overlooking the beautiful green space in Studio City. Harvard Westlake now has about 900 kids from 155 zip codes, which is quite a few more zip codes than before. We live here in 91604. This is where we live, this is where we work, and for all of the reasons, environmental and social, I am absolutely for this motion and against the project at Harvard Westlake. It is not a park. The Zev Park, we ourselves built with our neighbors, with our money, with our own hands, and what Harvard Westlake is talking about building is not a park, not for us.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice? Okay, public comment is closed. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to board discussion.
Are we gonna allow them to address any of that, or no? He's already made his statement.
Well, we can address everything if we have any direct questions and they choose to answer. So we don't need to really go
Point by point.
Yeah.
But the board can ask questions of the applicant.
Okay.
Correct?
I'll pose questions.
if,
we can ask.
if they want to. If not, we can just talk.
Oh, okay.
So who wants to make a point or question?
I think it's brilliant. We should vote and move on.
I'm happy to talk. As long
Do you have
as we
a comment, a question about the motion? We're not going to answer the public point by point.
I have one point, can I?
Sure.
Relative to the motion, right?
Relative to the motion. I don't know how many people got up and spoke because I forgot to keep a record. So I think you did,
23.
23, and 67 people wrote in opposing supporting the motion, and one person whose address was London and Pacific Palisades wrote in supporting Harvard Westlake's project. I mean, and the other ones were all Studio City residents. That's mine.
Can we explain exactly what this motion is?
Let me read the motion one more time. Would that be helpful to the board? Okay. So the motion is as follows. The motion of the Studio City Neighborhood Council at this point cannot support the Harvard Westlake River-Park proposal. Changes to the proposal in the FEIR do not adequately address concerns expressed by this board earlier in the process. It is our understanding that rebuttals to the FEIR from experts in the following subject matters, and that's certified experts, are coming in from hydrology, noise, traffic, artificial turf and water, lights, bats, air quality, safety, and trees. We look forward to seeing that work product. Additionally, the SCNC remains concerned about the lack of a comprehensive conditional use permit. The SCNC wishes to be involved in the drafting process along with CD4 and the applicant. Until that time, there are simply too many unknowns for us to support the project. So just to run it back, Ren, with what we've done there in 3 buckets. 1, there's still too many open pieces, so that's why there's not support. We separate the experts, because in reading through even though we could be brilliant citizen scientists, without the right credentials, and we should have gone to different schools and pursued different majors, even if we get it right, it is not accepted unless you are an accredited expert. So for us to play citizen scientist, even if we get it right, it's not going to have the credibility to be recognized and to overturn the FEIR. So we're waiting to hear back from those experts. Lastly, the piece we can work on is the public access piece. Because if you go through the 23 people who spoke, I think it was 17 or so that really had issues are, what is the public access, what's going on? That is something we can take a look at. We want to do that with Robin's office and with Harvard Westlake together, so we can get a handle on what will the public access really be. Is it really going to only be the YMCA, or is that the only group that's currently identified? One of the questions that's come up before is, are you going to have to be a member of a tennis league, or will there be times, for example, when you can just book a time? So that's why there's 3 buckets. That piece we can deal with. We can't become hydrologists because of the open issues we don't support.
I have one question. I don't recall, because I was at the ad hoc meeting, I don't recall we said at this point. I don't recall that being in the motion we voted on, you guys voted on, where it says at this point, we don't support. I don't remember that.
That was in the motion
Was
that
it?
was voted on.
Yeah. Sure. And I was open to taking that out of the motion. I'm open to taking that out.
I think the motion wouldn't make very much sense because the motion is centered around the need of additional information and work before we get to that point, so.
Because we need more time.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the whole thing would collapse. Julie?
I have a few questions. I guess my first questions would be to Ari and for Harvard Westlake. These are really basic questions, so I'm just trying to ask. I know you guys have a facility at your school now. I'm just curious, what is the need for this second facility? Would you have 2 full facilities for 900 students?
Yeah, we have, by the way, this is Terry Barnum, our head of athletics, and the main reason why we bought this property was because we have very expansive athletic programs, nearly 30 programs, boys and girls, freshman, JV, varsity. And the reality is that although nobody's going to cry for Harvard Westlake, the facilities that we have on our upper school campus are not satisfactory for allowing students to practice and play their games and get home at decent hours. Practice has to have to be stacked, whether they're on the field or in the gym or in the pool. That means that we have kids practicing from 7 until 9 o'clock at night. They're not getting home until too late, have dinner, get to bed at a very late hour. That's not healthy. And so the idea behind developing River-Park was to have additional field space, additional pool space, additional gym space, so that more students can take care of their athletic commitments between the hours of 3 p.m. and 6 p.m., get home to have a normal day with their families, finish their homework at a reasonable hour, and get to bed. So that's the genesis of the project I'll address questions from the council.
Okay. I guess my next question would be, there are all these questions about public access. The way I'm sort of hearing things over the few meetings that I've been to is that basically I can go walk the trail. That's about all I'm ever going to expect as a community member. Is that accurate?
Individually.
So the trail connects to a park area that fronts the river. It's the part in yellow or pink or whatever it is on Terry's chart here.
Right.
In addition, the Cafe Southwest, the putting green are open to the public for use. Tennis courts will be available for reservation when they're not being used by the school. And then the other athletic amenities of the site will be open to community through community groups. Now, I know that will generate a bunch of guffaws from the audience. For the better part of 5 years, we have tried to have conversations with the Studio City community about the definition of neighbors, about the definition of community, about what level of access the Studio City residents and the community at large would like to have to this facility. We have never been met with a willing partner in those conversations. And so what we have done is made an attempt to glean from the various conversations that we've had with different stakeholders over the years, the level of access that we believe the community would like. And I will tell you, I will tell you, it is.
Can the audience just please let him speak?
It is highly varied. We have people who, we have been approached by people over the years, neighbors who live directly across the street from the property, who say, we don't want you to have any public access, schools use and only the schools use, because we want to minimize neighborhood impacts. We have other people who live so far away that they wouldn't be affected by noise, light, and traffic who say, we want to have around-the-clock access. And so we have tried to calibrate to the best of our ability what we believe to be the neighborhood's desires. It's not going to be satisfactory to everybody, but we've tried to balance neighborhood impacts, tried to balance our commitment to the various partners with whom we have already established agreements, our commitments to our own students and our own families, and to the general peace and quiet of the neighborhood. And we are open to constructive dialogue about how to improve that condition. But that's the answer to your question.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. I appreciate that you're in a terribly difficult situation because you have purchased this property. You own the property. And I know there are some people who say, well, if this doesn't get built, what will get built? There is that worry. But I think there's also it seems to be a valid concern that it might be a little overbuilt. I mean, in terms of its scope and the effect that it would have. You know, especially noting that so many of the people that are using the facility don't live in the area. Is there an alternate plan that might be a little bit scaled back that maybe more community members could support?
There's not an alternate.
So I guess my question then to the board is, or whoever knows, is if we pass this motion tonight, I know this is an ongoing conversation, can they still get the approvals that they want from the city? How much impact does our vote tonight have on what they're doing?
With the city planning commission and with the zoning administrator?
Yeah, let's say we vote now, we don't support it, can they still get what they want no matter how we vote?
Yes. The short answer to that is yes. What this is the first attempt I'm aware of the Studio City Neighborhood Council to reach out and start negotiating and discussing with the applicant many of the points that were brought up tonight and over the last couple of years. We have 4 motions that I know of in the history of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, and none of them addressed anything that you see here tonight. So in some ways, we're starting at square one from the Neighborhood Council.
Right.
We're talking about public access, we're asking for more information on almost all the matters that everybody brought up. Experts are chiming in, so that process is still playing out. A lot of people seem to have a problem with the final environmental impact report that the city released. And we're trying to, I guess, in a sense, create maybe some kind of attention, doubt, whatever the word you want to use, to city planning, to the zoning administrator, that from our point of view, there still are open issues, which were brought up by many people in the audience. So if we're pointing out that we need more information, and that's why we have the at this point or at this time, whatever, I'll put my glasses back on. And to also start the process right now with speaking with Harvard Westlake and hopefully with help from CD4 to work out all the amenities, we know what they are, and what the difference is between community access and public access that so many people seem to be concerned about. We've never had those discussions. So those are going to begin. There's plenty of more work to do. So this is sort of the starting point.
We could come back we could come back after a conversation and say, here's the access.
Yeah.
And lay out a calendar, and you may decide that, having taken a look at the level of access you'll have, you still don't like it.
Yeah.
But we need to have more information around what that looks like. So for example, Sunday, there will be no school activities on Sunday, correct?
Yeah, generally speaking.
Generally speaking, Sunday would be a relatively open day. You're not going to bump into the owner of the property using it. So what would that look like?
You mean there would be public access on Sunday?
That's a conversation that has to happen.
And how do we?
Right.
Just
Can I
to
just
speak
say-
to that, what you said about, does it have any effect? It does have an effect if we cannot support the project. That's a message that goes to our council member, and then she has to deal with that, right?
Or
It's
not.
Or not.
Right.
But, or not, but
Well, of course,
it's
what we do
something
is important. I'm not saying what we do is not important.
Well, I'm
just
saying not that it's not
Yeah,
important, but that.
No one made you the decider when you weren't paying attention.
We just want, we're just asking for more accountability.
Yes.
That's all. That's really what we're asking.
Because if you go through a lot of these questions, and the hesitation has been in speaking with the applicant about access, does that imply accepting the project? Right? So without that, you end up with these urban legends about what they are and are not going to let us do. Let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
Let's ask the question. So my vision is a spreadsheet with 52 weeks and a tab for every amenity, and sit there and see what that looks like. There are times when the tennis courts will be available less than others, As Lori brought up, Harvard Westlake is running a summer camp that's going to run into hours where the tennis courts may be available. So we would need to know during a 4 or 8 week period, would the tennis courts not be available from 10 to 2 in June and July, whereas the other 10 months of the year they might be? We don't know the answers to those questions until we start pouring through it.
Right. Well, over the few years that I've been watching this, the conversation has always been the same about the vagary around it. I understand why they wouldn't want to commit, because they don't, then they have to commit. You know what I mean? But also, for me, public access is an interesting, you know, sort of perk of them maybe having it. But I think it's less important than the impact that it will have on the city in terms of traffic and noise. Because we are so, we are packed into the city, and anybody who lives here knows how hard it is just to get to the 101 to get on the freeway, or how hard it is to get into the Trader Joe's parking lot, or we've almost all had a wreck with the Sportsman's Lodge thing with people pulling out, you know, and the traffic is almost unbearable already.
And I think that one of the things that I wrote down as people spoke, and this is one thing we had spoken about with Barry's sportsman's issue in particular, and we touched on it in some of the other land use committee meetings that were presented to the board. It's the cumulative effect that becomes a problem, right? So we need to take a look at that. And I think that also is a conversation that needs to happen with the applicant. How many games are you planning to have? Is it cars or buses coming down? The elephant in the room is a couple hundred, 400 parking spaces. Will those 400 parking spaces only be used for playoff games? Do you expect it to be on Fridays? Do you
2,000 seats. 2,000
Well,
seats.
yes, but I mean,
Seats.
if I could answer that question too, that's if you add all the seats together. The use of the property would likely not be that all 2,000 seats would be filled. Am I correct in thinking that you wouldn't have simultaneous events on 2 fields and 2 gyms and the pool and the tennis courts?
Yeah.
I mean,
How is there a guarantee?
because there will be a conditional use permit. If they violate the use of the conditional use permit, they legally lose right to use the property.
We don't know there's no accountability for that.
There's no accountability for the parking in this Sportsman's Lodge.
Yes, they've been doing it.
They've apparently been able to skirt the use permit.
No, and there's been no.
And no discussion.
So what, there's no, basically no guarantee for us that.
Excuse me for a second, right? And I shouldn't even answer that because I'm not supposed to. That particular person, that owner is in violation of the CUP, and that's a specific problem that's different. There is not a track record of this applicant.
But when you said the cumulative effect, it's hard.
Yeah, it is. And so for that reason, it makes sense to speak with the applicant about what their predicted traffic flow would be, so we can find a way to start to coordinate that, because more data makes for better decisions. Supposition makes for the wrong decision, and that's where we are right now.
Can I say something?
I think Jeff,
I-
did you have your hand up? Yeah, Jeff's next. Just, one of my concerns is the concurrency of different projects going on. So your project has 28,142 dump truck loads of soil that are gonna be excavated. And that's at Whitson and Ventura. Then we have another project that's in the offing at Sportsman's Lodge. 520 apartments, 1,000 parking spaces. We have a project too that we dealt with last week in NoHo, where they're having a huge development by the metro station, 1,500 apartment units, 3,300 parking spaces. So one of the issues I have is, how are we gonna manage the traffic flows when you have all these projects that are gonna be going on at the same time? I know there's a construction management plan that is supposed to be developed among the parties in the city and whatnot, but the question I have is, have you spoken to Midwood about the possibilities of staggering your construction efforts so there's not a huge impact? Because it's gonna effectively shut down Ventura Boulevard and Coldwater. And those are huge arteries here in the valley, so that's something that I wish with.
The answer to your question is, I understand why it would be a concern. The reality is that with Harvard Westlake not having a clear sense of the timeline for this project, and obviously the opacity for us of what's going on with Midwood, there really has not been a constructive conversation between us and Midwood about aligning schedules. We had a fairly good dialogue with Ben Vesely, when he was the owner of the sports links we have.
I asked him that question, Ben Vesely, months ago, and he said he actually had a conversation with people with Harvard Westlake about it. It spurred him, but I know he's gone now. I think that effort needs to be reinvigorated, because this is a reality that's going to affect everyone here, and I think we need to get on top of this thing.
That's fair.
Go ahead, Adele.
No. First, to support Harvard Westlake, I do know that you guys are very good with your CUP in Holmby Hills. So the importance of us getting a really strong CUP is critical. That said, you said absolutely no alternative plan, but are you open to making it a smaller project? Are you open to thinking about an alternative plan? Or is that just because you feel like you're gonna get your, we can because we think we can? You're gonna get your way, so you don't have to? Or would there be some compromise? Because I do remember having a meeting with you and asking you, why not just one field and no pool? And you're like, that's never gonna happen. That's what you said to me. And so I did talk to you about a lot of things that you didn't think were reasonable. And so, would you be open to thinking about how to make this a little bit smaller, how to give us, let's say, a real park, a contiguous piece of land like that? Is that something you would?
Adele, this conversation's about the motion. Changing that would have to come up later.
It was brought up by, I thought it was brought up.
Well, but we're working on a motion right now. So if you want to delve into other topics that
Well,
are
maybe
not.
keep that in your pocket and we can talk about it later.
I mean, this process is going to be continuing. This is not the end all, folks, though there will be more meetings and more motions.
Just so everyone knows, on July 12th, there will be a Zoom meeting that is a public hearing that the Planning Commission will have, where they will take public comment. It's unfortunately a Zoom.
It's not the planning commission. It's a hearing officer. It's Kimberly.
And that doesn't count as, the Planning Department.
Keep the planning.
Planning Department. And then the CPC, the Planning Commission, is August 24th. And at that point, they will hear the feedback from Kimberly Henry, who's been running this project for the Planning Department. Her feedback from 7/12. And any other comments she gets? Is that how that works?
So also just a point of clarification, there was some mention of county land. And as far as I'm aware, there's been no input when Sheila Kuehl was the supervisor, not a peep as far as this neighborhood council is concerned. I can find nothing in any of the record. Supervisor Horvath did speak at the Studio City Residents Association over a month ago, and she came prepared to talk about a lot of issues, but the only issue that the audience wanted to discuss was Harvard Westlake. We're still waiting for a response for those issues of the county land. Her representative was at our board meeting last week, and they're still looking into it. So there is no finality. That's another item that's in play that's not part of this motion, and we're still waiting to hear back from the county as far as their views on the issues of the ZEV, the lease, and the other portions or factors of the county that play into this project. So that's another open issue that has not yet been decided, or any information from the county, so you're free to contact Supervisor Horvath's office and ask her what's up. And actually, I encourage you to do that if that is something you're concerned about.
Can you give us information how to get hold of her, please?
How do we get hold of her?
It's on the Studio City Neighborhood Council website under resources. The addresses for all the county folk are there. You're gonna find it?
I'm gonna double check. If not,
If it's not,
it'll
take
be
it up with
revised.
Scott, who broke the link.
Point of information, comments for the July 12th meeting go to Kimberly, right?
Yes,
The planning,
the planning lead on
plan.
this.
Yeah.
And information on how to attend the first hearing is also on our website. But I will make sure that Supervisor Horvath, her information will be there if it's not. So any other board comments, questions, issues regarding the motion at hand?
Just make a few comments.
Sure, please. That one should be working.
We're working well. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I heard a number of comments, obviously, and I have to say that I'm a little shocked, maybe disappointed and surprised that the attendance tonight is so small for something that has gotten so much attention. The fact that there were only 23 speakers and 67 wrote in. I'm not sure, I'm still kind of thinking about what that really means, and I understand that for local, Bel Air, Goodland, Elko is the most affected. And those are the people that, you know, are here, and that's important, and there is impact, and the impact is serious, but I'm just making note of that. I think there have been concessions made, despite everyone thinking they're not actual concessions, but they seem to be voluntary. So I don't know how we could say that there's zero concessions being made. A long time ago, I met with Ari and Stacy. And they were committed to listening. I think they still are committed to listening. I get that tone tonight. Ari said, you know, they're not a developer, and I told him a long time ago, I think Harvard Westlake is a developer, a different kind of developer. And I said they're a developer of humans. Young humans and minds that have a passion, and in this particular case, expanding their sports passion. And that's what this organization is doing. This property is held privately. It could be in the hands of another private developer. It could do a lot of different things. And I think the trips, if Sunday is going to be a quieter day and that can be a community day, I think that's a community plus. I don't think that should be overlooked. I question, everyone says this is overbuilt. What's the definition of overbuilt? I don't know.
Go ahead. Take a look at the map.
I've seen it. It could be 600 apartments. Is that overbuilt? Is this less than? Is this less than? I think it is. So I think there's a lot of unknowns. I still would like to see, and I support the language of at this point, because I do believe there are a number of things that have to be studied and observed. So I support the motion, but I largely support at this point. And I want to continue to monitor, interact, and hope that Ari and Stacy and everyone can continue to evaluate this project. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Otherwise, I think we're ready to go vote.
Okay.
Okay, let's call the vote.
Kim Clemens, absent.
Dean Cutler.
Again, my point, my comment is at this point, I support the motion.
So support, yes.
So yes is
Yes.
support for the motion.
Fiona Duffy, absent. Rhonda Freed, absent. Ira Gold, absent. Jeff Harwick.
Yes.
Julie Houlihan.
Yes.
Scott Mendel.
Yes.
Chick Meehan.
Yes.
Brenda Marino is absent. Richard Naderberg, absent. Red Sarah.
Yes.
Adele Slutter.
Yes.
Adam Summer, absent. Alexa Steinberg, absent. Ivy Velasco, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all the hard work of the ad hoc committee. I want to thank the members of the public who came to all the meetings, and all of you who came here tonight and voiced your comments. Thank you, Harvard Westlake, for coming. Thank you, board, for showing up. And not seeing or hearing any objections, we'll adjourn this meeting at 7:38. That's it, and that's all.